tumeenda live, ni intro inaenda. Yapo tunaenda live.
Ati Ebola survivors to forgo sex for 90 days.
Tunaenda live in 5. Aya. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to Romy TV Africa. This is Wednesday newspaper review with me, your host Regina Mwangi. Uganda will close schools nationwide later this month after 23 Ebola cases were confirmed among pupils, including 8 children who died. The country's First Lady said on Tuesday. Janet Museveni, who is also the Education Minister, said there had been cases in 5 schools in the capital Kampala, as well as the neighboring Wakiso district and Mubende, the epicenter of the outbreak. She said the cabinet had agreed to close pre-primary and secondary schools from November 25th, 2 weeks before the scheduled end of term. Closing schools earlier will reduce areas of concentration where children are in daily close contact with fellow children and staff. On Saturday, Uganda extended a 3-week lockdown on Mubende and neighboring Kasanda, the 2 central districts at the heart of the outbreak, which has claimed more than 50 lives. The measures include a dusk to dawn curfew, a ban on personal travel, and the closure of markets, bars, and churches. Since the outbreak was declared in Mubende on September 20th, the disease has spread across the East African nation, including the capital Kampala. But the president, he said nationwide curbs were not needed. According to government figures dated November 6th, a total of 53 people have died of Ebola out of 105 cases. The WHO, that is the World Health Organization, last week said Uganda had registered over 150 confirmed and probable cases, including 64 fatalities. Uganda's last recorded fatality from a previous Ebola outbreak was in 2019. The strain now circulating is known as the Sudan Ebola virus, for which there is currently no vaccine, although there are several candidate vaccines heading towards clinical trials. It is indeed a sad story. Having recovered from the COVID-19 epidemic, now we are back to Ebola, but I hope our country will not be one of the victims that will be highly, highly affected by the virus. Kenya Airways pilots call off strike. We saw that the Kenya airline pilots have been on a strike for almost now 2 weeks. This has been covering out the issues with the family. So this follows an earlier ruling Tuesday by the Employment and Labor Relations Court, which ordered the pilots to resume work. In a statement Tuesday night, CALPA withdrew their strike notice and urged their members to resume duty on Wednesday, and urged their members on November 9th, 2022 at 6 a.m. Members are also urged to report the Executive Council any incident of victimization or disciplinary action that may be taken contrary to the court orders, CALPA said. The Pilots Association said they regretted the disruption and inconvenience to KQ guests and urged their members to immediately restore normalcy to operations. CALPA launched the strike at Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on Saturday, defying a court order issued last week against the industrial action. Labor Relations Court Judge Anna Moure on Tuesday ordered the Kenya Airways pilots to resume to their duties as pilots by 6 a.m. on November 9, 2022 unconditionally. Kenya Airways later welcomed the court's decision. We thank the court for the expeditious ruling that now allows KQ to resume in normal operations. We commit to complying with the court's directions. In a statement by Alan Kilavuka, the group managing director and CEO of Kenya Airways, Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen had also during the day also welcomed the court order. He urged the airline to victimize any pilot who took part in the strike. The past 4 days have been difficult for Kenya's aviation industry due to the strike by the Kenya Airline Pilot Association, CALPA. We convey our sincere apologies to travelers and cargo customers affected by the strike, he said in a statement to newsrooms. I also urge the management of Kenya Airways to obey the court order barring the victimization of any of the pilots who participated in the strike, Mr. Murkomen said. He said a prolonged strike would have not only forced the closure of the airline, which was losing over 300 million shillings a day, but also negatively impacted over 18,000 lives that depend on the airline. You know, it has been an issue that has been going for now almost a week now. And we find that it has been affecting Kenyans. And if the strike has not really affected you as a person, then I think you need to work hard. Because those who are affected, they are people who are capable. So I think if it has not affected you, definitely, it's a call for you to really work hard, so that at least one point you'll also be affected by the strike. Now, Ashad Sharif's death was targeted murder, the Pakistan government says. The Pakistan government on Tuesday night said slain journalist Ashad Sharif was murdered and that his death was not a case of mistaken identity, as the Kenyan government claimed. Pakistan Interior Minister Rana Sanwala further said that the two brothers, Wakar and Kuram Ahmad, who were hosting Sharif in Kenya, were not off the hook, as they had a number of questions to answer. The two brothers were originally from Pakistan but hold Canadian passports. Also, on Amodam Kweni joint, which was the last place Sharif 50 was seen alive. It is murder and it seems to be prima facie. The two brothers in Kenya are still not out of it, the minister said. Prima facie, Ashad Sharif was murdered. It was a targeted murder and not a case of mistaken identity. He added, as he rejected a version of the incident given by the Kenyan police, that Mr. Sharif was shot and killed by officers at a roadblock on Magadi Road in Kajiado County. Prima facie is a common term amongst lawyers, which means that based on the first impression, something is accepted as correct until proven otherwise. Sanwala said that the three-member security team that was sent to Nairobi to unravel the death of the journalist has given him a brief. So the minister added that the investigation being conducted by Pakistan is yet to be completed and a plan is underway to send the trial to Dubai, where Sharif fled before coming to Kenya. According to Sharif's story, we saw every day through the Kenyan, security forces that were investigating the case, we saw that every day we were being given different stories. This police comes, this DCI comes and give us this story, tell us this way, that this car was this way, this car was that way. But again, now the Pakistan government has come to conclusion that it was a targeted murder. It was intentional. Definitely, it was not a mistaken identity, of which I agree with them. So it is up to the Kenyan government to clear the name and to really give details why Mr. Sharif was killed. But according to my opinion, maybe he had some secrets that they are supposed to be kept, and maybe they felt they couldn't, keep the secret, or Mr. Sharif could reveal the secrets that he had. So, according to the Pakistan government, it was a targeted murder. So I think we are at stake because our name is already out there in the dirt. So I think it's up to the Kenyan government to clean it. Now, aspiring musician, here are 8 steps to clinching the Voice Africa prize. Upcoming artists in Kenya and 12 other African countries have the opportunity to win $100,000 and a recording contract courtesy of the first season of The Voice Africa. But that's not all to be won. If you happen to be among the best 7 from Kenya, you're guaranteed to pocket $5,000 and some goodies from Airtel, the telco company. Such handsome rewards can make every upcoming artist really put in their best show. Are you? Your pathway to this: having an active Airtel line, being above 18, and uploading the 1-minute MP4 clip on www.thevoiceafrica. Below are the conditions to meet and all the steps you must follow. First, you must be 18 years and above to participate. Contestants must be 18 years old and should have lived in their countries for over 12 consecutive months. Proof of ID will be required. You must have an active Airtel line. The smartphone network not only places you at a par with the world with its translating data offers, but it also gives you a chance to be a superstar as the voice competition enters Africa. If you do not have one, grab it, as you will need to verify your line before you participate. Number 3, show your A game in the video audition. Short and sweet is the expression. You need to prove the world your singing prowess in a video that is no longer than 1 minute and no heavier than 20 MB. This requires you to record something short but sweet. Those who are good at this craft can captivate a listener in less than a minute. Record it, sign up on the www.thevoiceafrica and upload it. Number 4, after the video, a chance to perform. The most impressive voices in the video submitted will then be called for live auditions. This is where the 7 best singers from Kenya will be selected. By being in the top 7, you pocket a cool $5,000 and a host of goodies from the smartphone network. 6, Kenya's top 7 off to Nigeria. This is called The Voice Africa for a reason. It means you'll have to face off with other singers from a total of 13 countries in Africa where the Airtel is doing business. The best singers in Kenya will be flown to Nigeria for the filming of the show. Here, the cream of Kenya will battle it out with the best 7 from each other of the 3 African countries participating. From your information, the debut season of The Voice Africa will involve the countries Nigeria, Niger, Zambia, Kenya, Tanzania, Malawi, Madagascar, Seychelles, Republic of Congo, Chad, Rwanda, DRC, Gabon, and Uganda. Who will be judging the competition? There are no judges on The Voice. There are coaches. There will be 4 permanent coaches representing Africa throughout the program. There will also be guest coaches from other countries. The pool of coaches and guest coaches will be finalized early in 2023. The winner will have the vocal prowess to command the whole Africa behind him or her. The weekly TV show will definitely provide enough grounds of the ultimate winner to draw votes their way and the right to $100,000 prize. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. So if you believe you have what it takes to be crowned as Africa's strongest voice in front of millions of viewers, then take your chance by following the above steps that I've mentioned. This is a chance to really take your career to the next level. This is a chance to make sure that you shine. Maybe you've been there with the talent and you've been covering it. You don't know where to start. So it is your chance to show the world what you can do. So I wish you all the best of luck. Make sure you follow the guidelines that I've given you. And go, 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 go. We shall be proud of you. You shall represent our country in the part of Africa. Now, Bob Colimo family and court battle over his millions. A legal dispute pitting the widow of former Safaricom CEO Bob Colimo against his 2 children over the control of his multi-million shilling estate has been settled out of court, paving way for its distribution to the beneficiaries. This follows an agreement between the widow, Mrs. Wamboi Colimo, and the children, Mr. James Robert and Mrs. Claire Helen, to withdraw the suit. The 2 children are from Colimo's previous marriage to Claire Bishop Colimo. He married Mrs. Wamboi in a private ceremony at the Kitsuru home in 2016. In the consent agreement dated September 23, 2022, and filed before the family court in Milimani, Nairobi, the 2 sides agreed to drop the court fight. They settled the dispute at the court annexed mediation. However, the contents of the agreement have been made public. By mutual consent of the disputants in this matter, all the applications in court concerning the matter under reference are removed by the act of signing this mediation agreement, and the matter should be marked settled in the court records with effect from the date of this agreement. It is further agreed that each disputant will settle their legal costs. Their consent filed in court states. Following the new development, the court adopted the agreement as an order of the court. Prior to the agreement, Mrs. Wamboi and Mrs. Claire Bishop had moved to court, each seeking to control the wealth value at more than 200 million shillings. The estate includes cash, real estate, cars, and shares in various companies. Kolimo served as Safaricom CEO from 2010 until his death in July 2019. That is around over 9 years, after a long battle with cancer. Mrs. Claire Bishop wanted the court to cancel the powers given to Mrs. Wamboi to administer Kolimo's estate in July 28th of 2021. She had accused Mrs. Wamboi of failing to disclose and produce true records of the assets, including the bank accounts and statements. You know, Kolimo left 2 wills, one in Kenya and another outside the country. The second will has not been made public, and neither has the jurisdiction of its signing been revealed in court filings. The Kenya will filed in court by Mrs. Wamboi state that all assets Kolimo owned locally would be inherited by Wamboi. Mrs. Wamboi had asked the court to allow her to leave out some Mr. Kolimo's properties from the court record to avoid a lot of publicity. So I think this was a dispute between the 2 wives, you know, the former marriage of Mrs. Bishop, Claire Bishop, and now we have Mrs. Wamboi, the second wife from the second marriage. So I think these are 2 co-wives trying to have a dispute between the properties of Mr. Bob Kolimo. But I think there are 2 wills, so I think with the revealing of the second will, we can definitely know who and where the properties belong to. But again, it's good that they have dropped the case, so at least peace can reign. Now, 2017 violence comes back to haunt police IG nominee Japhet Koome. The violent scenes witnessed in Nairobi after the 2017 elections returned to haunt Inspector General of Police nominee Japhet Koome during his vetting by a joint parliamentary committee yesterday. Mr. Koome was hard-pressed to explain his role in the brutal crackdown on opposition protesters. The police raid on the University of Nairobi and the brutality police officers meted out on protesters at the electoral agency's offices that year. He, however, absolved himself from the unlawful killings and serious human rights violations that occurred during his time as Nairobi County Police Commander, saying investigations were done and he was not found culpable. On 2017 post-election violence and protests aimed at flashing out of the Independent Election and Boundaries Commission, IBC officials, he said the conduct of the officers was investigated by the Independent Police Oversight Authority, IPOA, and no one was found guilty. Regarding the death of Stephanie Mora in Mathare, he said, "I don't want to live here and be seen as a killer. I have 0% responsibility for the death of Mora and others during the 2017 post-election violence. In 2017, we had to act as we were about to lose this country. Mr. Clean," that is how he's quoted. So I think during the 2017, the chaos of the elections, I think there was no one to blame. This was definitely a hard situation that was brought up by the politicians. So I believe there was no one definitely there who was to blame. And the death of any Kenyan citizen, the death of any IBC official was not in the hands of anyone. Because definitely they brought up the issue, so I can't definitely say it is, Japhet Koome who killed them. Now, how hyperthyroidism has changed the life of a 17-year-old boy. That is now the life of a 17-year-old boy, laid for head after he was diagnosed with hyperthyroidism. Even though he fears needles, Mr. Forehead has learned to pinch his skin and inject insulin, an essential part of the daily regime of many people with diabetes. Because of hyperthyroidism, the Form 3 student has to get treatment for diabetes and hypertension. Mr. Forehead talks about his struggle before and after finding out about the little-known disease that has drastically changed his life. I was diagnosed with an overreactive thyroid in June of this year at the age of 17, but looking back, I must all have started at the beginning of 2021. At first, I didn't realize anything was wrong or that I had a problem. I have always been an active person. I started playing football in primary school, and at one point, the English football club, Everton, wanted to scout me out. I was also a bright student, so for my Kenyan Certificate of Primary Education, KCPE, I landed a spot at the prestigious Kabarak High School in Nakuru. Here too, in Form 1, I joined the senior football team. My academic performance was brilliant. I was an A student. However, things started to change during my second year. But I thought I was just adolescence kicking in. It was just adolescence kicking in. So I started feeling exhausted during the game. I love football. Instead of the 90 minutes I used to play, I started doing less than 45 minutes. I frequently had headaches on the left side, which affected my eyes, and they would go blurry sometimes. The headaches were followed by nose bleeding. I would take painkillers from the school sanitarium. Downplaying the severity of my pain, I did not want to bother my parents with headaches and nosebleeds. They already had enough on their plates. Even though Mom kept in from us, I knew she was ill because I had come across her medical documents, so I did not want to burden even more. But looking back, I wish I had spoken out earlier. With all this happening, my grades started dropping to B, which worried my parents. They even enrolled me in a remedial class, but nothing changed. My grades kept dropping. During the school academic day, every teacher complained about my grades, but they did not realize that my attention span was that of a gnat. I would be attentive in class, and the next time I would doze off, while the teacher was still teaching. My deskmate kept asking what was wrong with me. That question bothered me too because I did not understand what was happening to me. At some point, the school management thought I was taking drugs, so they got into my head until I started believing that maybe I might have unknowingly taken drugs while attending friends or relatives' party during the holiday. One day I got so agitated that I insisted on undergoing a drug test, that it became a black clear, no drug was found in my bloodstream. This I started developing other symptoms. My eyes started bulging and I would tremble when I got angry. I started wearing glasses into the bulging eyes, to hide the bulging eyes. They made me uncomfortable before the girls. What was happening to me made me feel secluded. This troubled me because I'm a naturally talkative and outgoing person. This did not augur well for my mental well-being. It is really a sad story for a 17-year-old boy, having to fight with diabetes at an early age. And diabetes mostly is rare for old people, but now we see just a young boy with a big life ahead of him suffering from such kind of a disease. So when you wake up every day and you have life, make sure to give God thanks and never take it for granted. This has been a newspaper review with me, your host Regina Mwangi. Tomorrow we shall be with my co-host Emmanuel Onyango. Make sure you follow us at Romy TV Africa in all our social media platforms. See you tomorrow, same time, same place.